Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's LS3 with Medicine Ball. I like that beat, man. Let that rock, let that rock. Welcome. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3 to be exact. And if you ain't in shape, then at least your brain should be. Y'all know what it is. We focusing on giving your brain a six pack. First, I would like to take this time to say I appreciate anybody who's here with me. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you chose to spend time with me, and I do not take that lightly. Second, I want to make it clear, man, I am not a medical professional. I'm not a psychologist. I am somebody who is diagnosed with a mental health disorder, bipolar 1 disorder, for 15 years. And I've gone through it. So I just like to offer this open forum for discussion, this open platform, man. Whether you're somebody dealing with a mental health illness, depression, anxiety, or whether you're somebody who has no illness and just going through the struggles and the depressions and the up and downs and, the things and the vigors of everyday life, man. We're here to discuss it. So, I appreciate y'all rocking with me, man. But we're going to go ahead and, give your brain a little exercise, man, and give you some things that can help you better yourself and become a better person and a better character when it comes to dealing with people in everyday life. So, without further ado, today's podcast 6, Simon Says. We're going to talk about the patterns in the game of life. Let's get it. All right. Patterns. The game of life. Simon Says, man. So today I want to talk about patterns. What are patterns? Patterns is a reliable set of traits or tendencies or other observable characteristics, man. And today I want to talk to you guys first about patterns and how to kind of look at them and be aware of them when it comes to dealing with your life, your mood, the way things happen in your life, your relationships, and you maybe want a different outcome. I'm going to teach y'all how to do that today, man. So the first thing I want to make clear and let everybody know is there's about, I believe, maybe 8 or 9 different types of patterns. And a lot of people, when they talk about patterns, they want to use art. So, there's about 9 different type of patterns, but I'm going to stick to talking to 3 different type of patterns today. The first pattern I want to talk about is symmetrical. Symmetrical pattern. That means one side is like the other. It's also a situation where if you make one adjustment to one side, the other side may require an adjustment or some type of reaction in order to make it equal. So, symmetry and a symmetrical pattern operates on a system on balance. So, with that being said, balance. So, it's like an idea. If you want to look at it like a symmetrical pattern or symmetrical build would be considered like the human body. Like, you got a left arm, you got a right arm, left leg, right leg. It's the same on each side. It has some types of balance. Now, the thing about this type of pattern is it's easy to understand, it's simple to understand, but that does not mean that it is a simple pattern or a simple build. It could be a very complex build. So, for instance, if we're talking about the build of a human being, it's easy to understand because left arm, right arm, it looks a certain way. It's visibly to the eye very appealing and equal and balanced. However, we all know that the human body is a very complex system, man. So even though it looks symmetrical on the outside and everything is easy on the eyes, it can still be complex. So that's one type of pattern, the symmetrical. The second type of pattern is a linear pattern. And people also use that word to kind of speak to linear thinking. And in a way, those things both relate in here what we're talking about. So linear is kind of a one after another. A little room for deviation. For most times, it serves a single purpose, and it's a lot of people are stuck in the way that we think, a linear way of thinking, thinking that the way that we think is the right way. There's no deviation from it. If somebody doesn't agree with it, or if somebody is against it, then they're automatically wrong, or we have to be enemies with them. And any deviating from it will greatly, shake up your balance and how you view things and how you deal with things. So, for instance, let's look at it as work. Say you work for I don't know, a paper company. it's a linear operation because you have one room that maybe works on folding the paper, one room that works on printing the paper. Even though every room has its own function and whatnot, it's all along the line, and the ultimate goal is to print the paper at the end. So when it comes to your thinking, that means that you're a person who thinks, hey, this has to be like this because it equals this. And it's also a pattern that you want to look for. Um, the third pattern, and this is the most important pattern, and this is what I want people to understand. And when they look at patterns and look at their lifestyle and the way things go, I want them to pay attention to this. It's called a fractal pattern. A fractal pattern, or the idea behind it, is that everything is somehow connected, right? Every action is going to have some type of reaction. Small changes can eventually have big effects in big circumstances. And the way that I explain it is, if anybody watches Family Guy, I try to explain it kind of like Family Guy with Stewie and the traveling machine. Stewie always travels and he always says, "Hey, don't use that restroom. Don't use that restroom. Don't blow your nose over there because that might affect something when we travel back to our time." But it's kind of that theory and that thinking that I want us to focus on. So there's three types. Symmetrical. I only mention symmetrical because the thing about fractal is symmetrical, linear, and fractal. But I only want it really to focus on linear and fractal, and I only mention symmetrical because fractal is expanding or evolving symmetry. And remember, we said symmetry is balance. So if you're thinking about fractal patterns, you're thinking everything is connected, but you're constantly expanding or evolving your balance. So I want people to get from the linear thinking to fractal thinking because the thing about that is understanding, right? And awareness of what might happen in situations can give you an opportunity to create different outcomes is the key to dealing with a lot of things, looking at things differently, adjusting your perception. And that's a fractal way of thinking. So when it comes to life, you want to pay attention to patterns because they are in our life. You know, maybe you're having a problem to live where you're living check to check. If you sit down and you break down what's going on, you will find that there's some patterns. Maybe you go shopping anytime you get a little bit of extra money. Maybe something seems to happen every time you get some extra money. But the thing about patterns is it allows you, if you're able to open your mind and be perceptive and be aware and observant, it allows you to see things and see where they're going and have, more importantly, and the more important part is the power to change the outcome. So if you're able to catch a pattern, and we want to think along the lines of a fractal pattern, which is thinking and knowing and the idea that everything that happens is going to have some type of reaction, then you can start to control situations. Say you're a person who diets all the time, or say you're a person who finds yourself constantly depressed, and maybe you're able to get out of that depression. Or maybe you're a person who deals with anxiety. Maybe you're able to get out of that anxiety, but you may find yourself back in that exact same situation within a few months. Or sometimes it could be a whole year. And what happened in that situation is that basically you prolonged the pattern, but you didn't change it, which is why you're getting an outcome. So, what we want to focus on, and I want you guys to kind of pay attention to with life, and we're going to kick this off in the next seg about why patterns are important when it comes to unlocking and playing life's game, is that if things are happening and you really want to make a change, or you really want to change how you perceive things and how you think, and most importantly, you want to exercise your brain, got to start paying attention to the patterns in life. Say you have a friend or someone and you guys argue every 6 months and have a big falling out, and then it's a year or two before you speak. Sooner or later, you guys are going to get older and you may not have that time to go without speaking and, have a chance to make amends, and Lord forbid something happen to them. Well, you can break those patterns by being aware that there is a pattern. And just because you see a bad pattern, that's not a bad thing. You can use that information to ultimately, because it's all about gathering information and changing your outcome. But even if you see a bad pattern, like a relationship like that, when you start seeing things going down that road, if you open yourself up and pay attention, you'll eventually be able to see the things that trigger certain reactions. And I'm telling you, man, you will find yourself being able to deal with situations and change the outcomes of situations that you thought you were stuck in. And that's what we want to get you at, thinking differently. So, patterns, man, remember what they are: reliable set or trait of tendencies or otherwise observable characteristics. You got to be aware, you got to be open, you got to be keen to this idea of patterns and how they affect your life. And once you accept that and you're able to kind of use those and judge, I'm telling you, man, things will only get better. So, yeah, man, those are the three types, man: symmetrical, which is the balance; linear, that one way thinking. We want to get out of that linear way of thinking; and fractal, man. The idea that everything is connected and small changes can have big effects on outcomes, man. So keep it locked, man. LS3, man. Or medicine ball with your boy LS3 to be exact. And if you ain't in shape, at least your brain should be, man. Coming up in the next seg, I'm going to show you how you can use these patterns and unlocking patterns as a cheat code to this game of life we play. All right? Check out this beat, man, and we'll be right back and get straight into it. Let's get it. Yes, sir. Welcome back. Medicine Ball with LS3. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you rocking with me, and I do not take that lightly. Simon Says patterns in the game of life, man. So we're gonna get straight into it, man. The game of life. Life is like a game. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you gotta kind of figure out that life is a game that you're playing, man, and it's something that you go through and you deal with, and there's patterns. So anybody who's into games, man, and that's everybody, whether you be male or female, somebody has played, whether it be Call of Duty, Madden 2K, Candy Crush, Farm Builder, all that stuff is some type of game. You've played some type of game. And even sometimes in real sports, man, there are patterns to beating these bosses and to beating these levels. So we piggybacking right off of what we were talking about, patterns. All right, so to all the gamers, you ever get to a level that's harder, or, it's a boss, and, the normal button mashing or the simple tactics that you used previously just won't get it done. But when you do beat that boss, man, for as far back at least as I can remember, and I've been playing games since Atari, you find out a lot of these guys have patterns to beating them. The bosses, guys or gals, they have patterns to beating them. Whether it be to jump on their head and dodge a left punch and then a right punch, go to the right again, and then it open up another opportunity. It's a pattern. So I want you guys to start realizing that, hey, our lives have patterns to them. This adversity that we face, these bosses, these tougher levels that we face, they have patterns to them. Just like the games back in our day. Even if you go look at an average football or basketball game, man, they got patterns to them, man. I think I heard somewhere that the Rockets, man, the Houston Rockets, they shoot within 15 seconds. That's still a form of a pattern, which leads ultimately to a strategy to defeating the bosses. So, here's the thing. That business that you've been trying to launch, man, or that relationship you've been looking for and you've been trying to build, it's nothing but a boss level. That's all it is in your life. You've come to a boss level. You've come to a different tier in your life, and now it's time to level up and go to the next level. You just got to catch the pattern to defeat the boss, man. And here's the thing: you got to also understand that it took me a while to kind of grasp the concept in, and this goes a long way as far as calming just the anxieties and whatnot. Life is pretty much level after level, whatever you want to say, puzzle after puzzle, problem after problem, issue after issue, adversity after adversity. That is life. That is life. So the first thing you got to kind of understand is the levels never run out with life. You're not going to get to a point where all your bills are paid and nothing's wrong with your car and nothing's wrong with your house and everything's perfect, because then you lose purpose. You don't have a purpose anymore. It's just like if you get a video game. Life is a video game, man. You get that new video game. Once you beat the levels, it's like, okay, I've done everything. It's absolutely no purpose in this at all. The second thing you got to do is Use the patterns that you learn from being aware. And you have to be aware of patterns and also aware that one thing affects another. Once you start using that information, it's almost like a cheat code into life. So it's just like if you're dealing with a anxiety issue or a depression issue, once you start looking at, okay, what usually happens before I get depressed? Do I spend too much money? Do I start drinking? Do I smoke too much? Do I like what's going on? There is a pattern. You just have to sit down and kind of figure it out, man. And you figure it out through experience. And that's what I try to tell people when it comes to playing this game of life, man. You got to appreciate each experience as a chance to go to the next level. That's all it is. If your business didn't launch off the ground that first or second time you tried, man, and it's kind of weird because in a weird way, it's like if you were able to go through and be each boss, i.e., go through handle each problem that you have in life, like where's the fun in that? Where's the living in that? Let's think about it, man. If you were able to just start a business and immediately your business was successful, and then all of a sudden you made all your money, then you bought everything you wanted to buy, and everything was so obtainable, you wouldn't grow, you wouldn't learn, you wouldn't build, you wouldn't become the person you are because everything would be too obtainable. Nobody wants to buy a game. Like I remember when I used to when I was younger, I was really heavy into video games, man, and sometimes I used to be like, man, this thing is so hard, but not realizing that I kept going back to try. I kept going back to try, and it's fun because guess what? Once you're able to pass that level or this adversity or whatever that you're going through in life, man, you feel on top of the world, all the way on top of the world, man. So use the patterns. If you have something that you're failing at or something that you can't overcome, it's a reason. It's a pattern. Somewhere along there, you're doing the same thing that's giving you the outcome. Learn to catch the pattern, use it as a cheat code, and start bypassing the things you did to get the previous outcome. Do something different this time. And it unlocks. And that's how it's kind of like a cheat code to life. And it takes time. As always, these concepts take time, the ideas take time, it takes effort. You have to invest into it, you do. But it is possible. So yeah, man, life is a game, man. It's like a game. You're gonna go through these levels. Some levels are easier than others, but sooner or later you're gonna arrive at that boss. You're gonna come across that adversity. But guess what? If you're able to recognize the pattern, and it might take you a couple of times to defeat the level, but once you're open to recognizing the patterns, and that's the thing you got to understanding, even in losing, you're learning something. It's all about taking that data that you've gathered, putting it in together till you can finally beat that boss, man. And whether that be a relationship, financial, whether that be anxiety, whether that be depression, hardship, just know that eventually you can beat that boss if you're willing to open up, pay attention to the patterns, use the patterns as a code, and you'll have no problem getting by. All right, man? Yo, thank you for rocking with me. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. Simon Says, man, coming up in this next Says, I'm going to teach you guys about my version of Simon Says and how that can go ahead and round out everything, make you, a little bit easier to deal with things and make decisions. And yeah, man, we'll get to it. Check this beat out. Thank you for rocking with me. We'll come right back after this and get straight into it. Let's get it. Welcome back, man. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. All right, man, we getting right back into it, man. Simon Says, man. So I want to talk about Simon Says and kind of my version of Simon Says, man. So we all played this game, and even when coming up with this idea and this name for the podcast, I went and did a little bit of research, and it originates from a guy back in Roman times whose name was Marcus Cercio, and apparently he was this powerful guy. And when he said something, you did it. So Simon Says derived from that. And it's funny because Cercio It was named that because Sergio was a powerful person, and it was the fact that he was saying it that made people do it. Now, here's the thing that I understood about the game Simon Says as a kid. I was real good at the game, man. I like anytime I ever could think to my thoughts, thinking about it. Anytime I played Simon Says, man, I was always like one of the finalists, one of the last people to be tagged out. And the thing is, most people feel like Simon Says is about reacting quickest. Who reacts quickest? Who can do something quickest? Who can take in the information or hear something and react to what they heard the quickest? And that goes into something which we'll discuss more furthermore and down in our podcast in our series. But people hearing to respond versus people listening to respond versus listening to hear what was said. It was Sergio Says. It's Simon Says. So I knew that, hey man, it's not about who can react the fastest, it's who can hear what's being said accurately the quickest. So I was able to put myself into a zone where, hey man, if I didn't hear Simon, I just didn't even listen to it. And it's like, you know how they get you? They lull you to sleep. It's like James Harden with his basketball move. He walk up, dribble all slow. He's like, Simon Says, touch your nose. Simon Says, touch your ear. Simon Says, look up. Simon Says, look down. Simon Says, look up. Simon Says, look down. Simon Says, open your eyes, close your eyes. Bam, got you. Then here Simon Says, it's just like that fadeaway, man. You think he's not gonna do anything? He's asleep out here. Bam, James Harden hit you with the fadeaway, man. It's the same thing. So what I do is I use it as a way to verify something. So if I know I'm in an emotional state where I'm angry or depressed or a little bit irritable, and maybe something happens and I'm gonna react on her like, yo, this person said this, I'm about to chomp them out. Then I'll ask myself what Simon Says. Simon Says, do you want to chump them out? And what that does is it's giving me time to get past that initial. And again, this is about knowing yourself. I'm kind of I'm familiar with myself. I make it a habit to be self-aware. So I know anytime I'm dealing with any type of big type of decision, adversity, or issue or whatnot, if my emotions are involved in it, I don't need to go with my first thought because my emotional thought, and this is me, is not always my logical thought. So I play Simon Says with myself. So even when it comes to spending energy to talk negatively about something or have a negative opinion or something, and I'm not perfect, but I definitely do it more often than not. Yo, like man, I should just go rough this person up. Simon Says, do I want to go rough this person up? Because it makes you say it, and it's in a way it's confirming with your more mature self, your authoritative self. Remember, it was Cicero. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Cicero, who was the person the game was derived after because he was a person of influence. He was a person of intelligence. He was a person who was respected. That person who racks off an impulse when you're dealing with yourself might not always be that respectable person, man. It might not always necessarily be that first reaction that you want to go through. So, Simon Says also does another thing. It gives you a chance to put in the pattern theory that we talked about. It gives you a chance to look at the patterns, man. Fill the patterns out. See what's going on. Verify. Is this valid? At the bare minimum, you're going to throw in an extra thought that you wouldn't have thrown in if you were sad or upset or something like that. Now, the thing that I also understand is sometimes that decision that I made that was an emotional one, or maybe one that's based off of a different type of emotion, anger or something like that, sometimes that emotion is legit. So you got to be aware of that. But that's what I want y'all to practice. The Simon Says, man, before you give up on something, or even when it comes to dealing with this game of life, make it a game, man. Simon Says, man, make it a game, man, because that's the object of this life. Recognize the patterns. Use those patterns as a cheat sheet to beat these levels. Level up. Go to the next boss. Go to your next adventure. Go to the next thing that you should be doing, man. So that's what I challenge y'all to do, man. Next time you really get upset, I'm talking about where, and again, this takes some awareness of self. This takes some knowledge of self. The next time you get upset or bothered or something and you have that initial impulse reaction, whatever that is, man, you don't got to do it every time. But take a Simon, Simon Says, man, verify it. Do you want that commanding person who's wise, who people respect and do what they say? Is that the person who's speaking on your initial reaction? Is this initial reaction following a pattern of something that has gotten me in an outcome that I don't like? Let's change that outcome, man. Yo, it's your boy LS3, man. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for rocking with me. The Medicine Ball Facebook page is up and running. You can follow me on Instagram, the real LSD3, the real LS3, TheRealLS3. You can find me on Facebook as well under that. Yo, anybody who has any questions, feel free to contact me. Hit me up on the page, man. And if you want to talk about something in confidence, or you maybe want me to address some topics, hit me up there, man, and we'll start to get going. Now is the time to do it. I got interviews coming up here. I got some things in store. We're going to continue to support this mental health movement. I appreciate y'all rocking with me, man. Always remember to be the best version of yourself, man. Be aware and work out your brain, man. Medicine Ball with your boy LS3. If you ain't in shape, you already know your brain should be. Give your brain a six pack. Peace. I love y'all. I'm out.